Chosen one, listen carefully. The one who thought the cameras were off just watched his own footage bury him. He was so sure. That's the part that should sit with you first. Not angry, not nervous, sure. He walked around for weeks like a man who already won, like the outcome was locked, like your name was already finished, and all that was left was watching you find out. He didn't whisper his plan. He didn't second-guess it. He built it slowly, carefully, convinced that no one was ever going to see the wiring underneath. And then the footage surfaced. Not leaked by an enemy, not stolen by a rival. His own camera, his own angle, his own voice. Caught doing exactly what he swore he'd never get caught doing. The plan that was supposed to erase you instead recorded itself, time-stamped, unedited, undeniable. And chosen one, that's not irony. That's the universe closing a door he thought he'd locked from the inside. You know this feeling already, even if you didn't have the footage before today. The feeling of being talked about like you were already gone. The feeling of watching people shift around you, careful, distant, like they knew something you weren't supposed to know yet. You felt the plan before you ever saw the proof of it. That's not paranoia, that's instinct, and instinct doesn't lie the way people do. Before we go further, hit like and subscribe. Not because it flatters anyone, but because it's how this message finds the next person sitting exactly where you're sitting right now, wondering if what they feel is real. Here's what he didn't understand about you. He thought your quiet meant you hadn't noticed. He thought your patience meant you were slow. He thought if he waited long enough, moved carefully enough, smiled at the right moments, the story would write itself in his favor, and yours would disappear underneath it. What he never accounted for was this: truth doesn't need you to fight for it. It just needs time, and time was never on his side. It only felt that way because he was the one making noise and you were the one standing still. Now the same footage he recorded to protect himself is the exact thing that ends him. Let's break down exactly how this happened, piece by piece, because you deserve to understand every layer of what just fell apart in front of you. Number 1. The plan he was so proud of. He didn't stumble into this, he built it. That's the part people miss when they imagine someone getting caught. They picture a mistake, a slip, an accident. This wasn't that. This was constructed, brick by brick, over weeks, maybe months, with the kind of patience that should have scared you if you'd known about it sooner. He studied your patterns, he learned your schedule, he figured out exactly which rooms you'd be in and exactly which rooms you wouldn't. And in the rooms you weren't in, he built a version of you that was easier to destroy than the real one. Ask yourself something honestly. Why does a person spend that much time constructing a lie about someone who never did anything to them? Because the lie was never really about you. It was about him. It was about what he needed to become true in order to feel powerful, justified, untouchable. You were simply the material he used to build it. He rehearsed the story. He tested it on smaller audiences first, watching their faces, adjusting the details based on what landed and what didn't. He was proud of it. That's the detail that should stop you cold. Not nervous pride, not guilty pride, genuine confidence, the kind you only have when you believe there's no possible way the truth catches up to you. Imagine a man building a house on a foundation he knows is cracked, decorating every room beautifully, inviting people in to admire it, all while knowing that one hard rain will bring the whole structure down. That's what confidence built on a lie always looks like from the outside. Beautiful until the weather changes. He wasn't sloppy. That's important to understand because sloppy isn't scary. Sloppy gets caught by accident. He was careful, deliberate, controlled. He picked his moments. He picked his witnesses. He picked the exact tone of voice that made him sound like the reasonable one and made your silence sound like guilt. He knew exactly what he was doing, and he did it anyway, because somewhere along the way he convinced himself you were the kind of person nobody would defend. That's the miscalculation that ends this story before it even gets to the footage. He built an entire plan around the assumption that you were alone in it. He never once considered that the very tool he was using to control the narrative, his own camera, his own record of events, would be the thing that eventually told the truth, without needing your voice at all. You didn't have to prove anything. He proved it for you. Every frame he recorded to protect his version of events became the exact thing that dismantled it. He thought he was building a shield. He was building a confession. And chosen one, here's what nobody tells you about people like this until it's too late. The ones who need a plan this elaborate to take someone down were never actually more powerful than you. They just moved first. That's it. That's the whole trick. Confidence isn't proof of strength. It's proof of how badly someone needs you to believe they have it. Number 2, why your silence made this so much worse for him. You didn't fight back the way he expected. That's the detail that unraveled him faster than anything else could have. He built his entire plan around a reaction. He needed you to panic, to argue, to defend yourself loudly enough that your defense looked like desperation. That's how these plans always work. They're not really designed to survive scrutiny. They're designed to survive your emotional response to them. And you didn't give him one. You stayed calm. You kept moving. You didn't explain yourself to people who had already decided not to listen. And chosen one, that terrified him more than any accusation you could have thrown back at him. Because a plan built on your panic doesn't know what to do with your peace. It just sits there, exposed, waiting for someone to notice how strange it is that you never reacted the way a guilty person, or even a desperate one, is supposed to react. Think about what silence actually communicates when it's built on truth instead of fear. It says, I don't need to convince you of something that's already real. It says, I know what happened, and I know what didn't, and I'm not going to perform my innocence for people who already made up their minds. That kind of stillness is unbearable to someone who needs chaos to hide inside of. Imagine someone throwing a stone into water, expecting a splash loud enough to drown out everything else. And instead, the water just closes back over it, calm, undisturbed, like the stone was never thrown at all. That's what your silence did to his plan. It didn't fight the lie. It just refused to feed it. He needed you loud so he could point at the noise and say, look how unstable they are. Look how defensive. Look how guilty people sound when they're cornered. But you never gave him a corner to stand in front of. You just kept living, kept working, kept showing up as exactly who you'd always been. And that consistency became its own kind of evidence. People started noticing the gap. Not immediately, but eventually. The gap between the story he told and the person they actually saw in front of them. Stories need friction to survive. They need you flinching, snapping, breaking a little under the weight of being misjudged. Every day you didn't give him that friction was another day the story had nothing left to feed on. He mistook your composure for absence. He thought it meant you weren't paying attention, weren't building anything of your own, weren't prepared for what was coming. What he didn't understand is that composure isn't the opposite of awareness. Sometimes it's the clearest sign of it. You don't scramble when you already know how this ends. And chosen one, that's exactly why the footage hit as hard as it did when it finally surfaced. Because there was no contradiction for people to reconcile. You'd already shown them who you were. Calm, consistent, unshaken. The footage didn't have to convince anyone you'd been telling the truth. It just confirmed what your steadiness had already been saying the whole time. Number 3. The night he thought it was over. There's always a night like this in stories like yours. A specific moment where the person behind the plan lets himself believe it worked. Maybe it was a room full of people nodding along to his version of events. Maybe it was a message that finally stopped coming, one you'd grown used to receiving, one that told him his silence campaign had succeeded. Whatever it was, there was a night where he exhaled, where the tension left his shoulders, where he genuinely believed the hardest part was behind him. That's the part that should make your skin prickle a little, chosen one, because it means he wasn't scared of getting caught. He'd already stopped worrying about it. He'd moved into the comfortable phase, the phase where a lie feels less like a risk and more like a finished project. People get careless in that phase. They stop double-checking. They stop covering tracks they've convinced themselves don't need covering anymore. Imagine a man standing at the edge of a cliff in the dark, confident he knows exactly where the ground ends, because he's walked this path 100 times before without incident. Comfort is what makes people stop counting their steps, and it's exactly in that comfort that the ground finally gives out from under them. He didn't know the camera he trusted to protect his version of events was the same camera quietly recording the version he never wanted anyone to see. He didn't know that somewhere in the footage, in the background, in a moment he assumed was throwaway, the truth was sitting there patiently, waiting for someone to press play at the right time. That's the cruelty of overconfidence. It doesn't announce itself as a mistake while it's happening. It feels like control. It feels like winning. He probably slept well that night. He probably told himself the story was finished, that you'd stay quiet, that the people around him would keep believing what was easiest to believe. He had no idea he was already caught. He just didn't know it yet. Ask yourself why some people are so willing to sleep peacefully after building something this cruel. It's not because they don't understand what they did. It's because they've convinced themselves the story ends the moment they stop worrying about it. But stories don't work that way. Truth doesn't clock out when the liar goes to bed. It just keeps existing, patiently, in the exact place he left it, waiting. You may have had nights like this too, chosen one. Nights where you wondered if it would ever surface, if anyone would ever see what actually happened instead of what he told them happened. That waiting is its own kind of exhausting. But here's what you didn't know yet on those nights. While you were wondering if the truth would ever catch up, it already had a head start. It was sitting in a file, on a drive, in a folder he never thought to check twice, quietly outlasting every lie built on top of it. He thought that night was the end of the story. It was actually the beginning of the part where the story stopped being his to control. Number 4. Why nobody expected the footage to survive. Here's the part that should feel almost funny if it weren't so serious. He didn't lose because someone hunted him down. He didn't lose because an enemy dug through his life looking for a weapon. He lost because he kept the evidence himself, out of habit, out of arrogance, out of the simple human belief that nothing he did would ever be looked at closely enough to matter. People who build lies, this elaborate, almost always keep some version of the proof close, because deep down, they need to relive the moment they think they won. They rewatch it. They replay it in their heads, sometimes literally, and in doing that, they forget the most basic rule of covering something up. The safest lie is the one that never gets recorded in the first place. He broke that rule before he ever thought about breaking anything else. Imagine someone burying something in their own backyard, confident that no one would ever think to dig there, because why would anyone suspect the person standing right in front of the house? That's exactly what this was. He hid the truth in the last place anyone thought to look, which was inside the very tool he used to build the lie. Nobody had to break in to find it. Nobody had to hack anything, steal anything, trick anyone into handing it over. It surfaced the way these things almost always do, quietly, accidentally, at a moment he wasn't controlling. Maybe a device got shared. Maybe a backup synced somewhere it wasn't supposed to. Maybe someone simply asked to see something ordinary and stumbled into something he never meant for anyone to see. That's the part that should sit with you, chosen one. He didn't lose because you were clever enough to trap him. He lost because the truth doesn't need traps. It just needs time and a little bit of carelessness from the person hiding it, and eventually it finds its own way into the light. People love to imagine justice as something dramatic, a confrontation, a reveal, a moment scripted like a courtroom scene. But most of the time it looks like this instead. Quiet, almost boring, a file opened by accident, a conversation that goes slightly differently than expected, a single unnoticed detail that turns out to be the whole case. He thought he was untouchable because no one was actively investigating him. What he didn't understand is that truth doesn't need an investigator. It just needs to exist somewhere, and it will eventually be found by someone who wasn't even looking for it. That's not luck. That's the nature of things built on lies. They can survive scrutiny for a while. They can't survive time. Number 5. The moment it started moving. There's always a specific moment where something shifts from private to unstoppable, and it rarely announces itself the way you'd expect. No dramatic reveal, no big confrontation, just one person seeing something they weren't supposed to see, and instead of staying quiet about it, deciding they couldn't. That's the part he never planned for, chosen one. He planned for you. He planned for your reaction, your defense, your potential outburst. What he never planned for was someone else entirely, someone with no personal stake in protecting either of you, simply refusing to look away from what they'd stumbled onto. Once that happens, the thing takes on a life of its own. It stops being something one person can manage. A screenshot here, a conversation there, someone mentioning it to someone else who happened to already have doubts of their own. Every person who saw it added weight to something that was already too heavy to carry quietly. Imagine a single crack in a dam, so small it seems almost harmless at first. Nobody panics over a hairline fracture, but water doesn't care how small the opening is. It finds it, and it keeps finding it, and eventually the pressure behind it does the rest of the work without anyone having to push. That's what happened here. The footage didn't need a campaign behind it. It didn't need you posting it, defending it, explaining it. It just needed to exist in more than one place, seen by more than one person, and the momentum built entirely on its own weight. He probably felt it before he understood it. A shift in tone from people who used to talk to him easily. A pause before certain conversations. A question asked slightly too carefully, like someone testing the ground before deciding whether to step on it. That's usually the first sign, chosen one, long before anyone says the thing directly. People start being careful around you the moment they suspect the story they were told isn't the whole story. And once a few people start whispering to each other, instead of repeating the version they were given, the entire structure he built starts to hollow out from the inside. He can't control who saw it. He can't control who they told. He can't control the exact moment someone decided silence wasn't an option anymore. All he can do is watch it move, further and further from his grip, exactly the way truth always moves once it's finally been let out of the room it was locked in. Number 6. Why he can't spin this one. He spun stories before. That's probably how he got this far in the first place. A person who's learned exactly which words soften a room, exactly which tone makes people doubt what they saw with their own eyes, exactly how to turn a bad look into someone else's overreaction. That skill worked for a long time. It's the reason he felt safe building something this big in the first place. But spin only works on ambiguity. It needs room to maneuver, a gap between what happened and what people are willing to believe happened. Footage closes that gap completely. There's no room left to reframe a moment when the moment recorded itself in his own voice, his own actions, his own choices, without a narrator standing between the event and the audience. Watch how differently people react to a story versus a recording. A story can be adjusted in real time based on who's listening. A recording can't be negotiated with. It doesn't care how convincing he sounds afterward. It already happened exactly the way it happened, and now everyone watching gets to see it without him standing in the middle, translating it into something softer. Imagine a magician who's spent years perfecting a trick that depends entirely on misdirection, on the audience looking where he wants them to look, instead of where the actual mechanism is. Now imagine someone hands the audience a slow-motion replay of exactly what his hands were doing the whole time. The trick doesn't just fail, it becomes obvious it was always a trick. That's what's happening to him right now. Every attempt to explain it away just draws more attention to how badly it doesn't match what people can see with their own eyes. Every new version of the story makes the previous version look more suspicious, not less. He's discovering in real time that the skill that carried him this far has an expiration date. And that expiration date arrived the moment the footage started circulating. People who once believed him easily are now doing something they never did before. They're comparing his explanation against the recording itself, sentence by sentence, and finding the gaps. Once someone starts fact-checking a person they used to trust blindly, that trust doesn't just weaken, it collapses, because now they're wondering what else they believed without checking. He built his whole plan on being more convincing than the truth. He never planned for a version of events where the truth didn't need convincing at all. It just needed to be seen. Number 7. Why the people who backed him are disappearing. This is the part that should feel almost satisfying to watch. Chosen one. Not because you need revenge, but because it shows you something important about the people who chose comfort over honesty when it mattered. The same people who repeated his version of events, who nodded along, who let your name get dragged through a story they knew wasn't fully true, are now nowhere to be found. Notice how fast loyalty evaporates once it stops being convenient. They weren't standing with him because they believed him completely. They were standing with him because it was easier than standing anywhere else. Easier than questioning the story. Easier than risking their own comfort by defending someone who wasn't in the room to defend themselves. Now that the footage exists, defending him publicly means defending something they can no longer pretend not to understand. So they're quietly stepping back, deleting their part in it, hoping nobody remembers exactly how loudly they repeated his version when it mattered. Imagine a group of people cheering enthusiastically for a performance they never actually watched closely, clapping because everyone else was clapping. The moment the curtain drops and the trick is exposed, watch how fast those same hands stop moving. Nobody wants to be caught applauding for something that turned out to be false. That's exactly what's happening around him right now. The people who amplified his story are the ones with the most to lose if they keep amplifying it now. So they go quiet, they distance themselves. Some of them will even quietly reach out to you eventually, testing the water, hoping you don't remember exactly how absent they were when it counted. You don't owe them your forgiveness for that timing. You're allowed to notice it. You're allowed to remember who spoke up early and who waited until it was safe. That's not bitterness. That's just paying attention to the difference between people who believe in truth and people who believe in whatever protects them at the time. Meanwhile, he's watching his own support disappear in real time, and there's nothing he can do about it, because the very thing that made people trust him, confidence, certainty, control of the narrative, is the exact thing the footage stripped away. Without that, he's just a person standing in the wreckage of a story that no longer holds up, watching everyone who once stood beside him quietly step out of frame. Number 8. The mirror he built cracking in front of everyone. For a long time, he got to control what people saw when they looked at him. Reasonable, reliable, the one people believed by default. That reputation didn't happen by accident. He built it carefully, the same way he built the plan against you, brick by brick, moment by moment, making sure the version of himself people saw was exactly the version he wanted them to see. The footage didn't just expose one incident, it cracked that entire mirror. Because now people aren't just questioning what happened to you, They're questioning every other moment they took at face value because they trusted the person telling it. That's the real cost of getting caught this cleanly. It doesn't stay contained to one story. It bleeds backward into every story that came before it. Imagine someone discovering a single lie inside a book they'd trusted completely, and suddenly wondering how many other pages were quietly rewritten the same way. That's what's happening in the minds of everyone who once believed him without question. They're rereading old conversations. They're reconsidering old excuses. They're wondering how many other times his version of events was the only version anyone bothered to check. He built his whole identity around being the trustworthy one, and trust like that only works as long as nobody looks too closely. The moment the footage surfaced, people started looking closely at everything, and what they found wasn't reassuring. It was a pattern. A person who was comfortable shaping the truth whenever it served him, and comfortable doing it convincingly enough that almost nobody questioned it before. That's the part he can't undo. Chosen one. You can rebuild a reputation after one bad moment if people believe it was an aberration. It's much harder to rebuild one after people start recognizing a pattern. And once the pattern is visible, every future story he tells gets measured against it, whether he likes it or not. He spent so much energy protecting the version of himself people saw that he never planned for a version of events where they got to see behind it. Now that they have, there's no explanation smooth enough to put that mirror back together. Some things, once cracked, just stay cracked, no matter how carefully someone tries to hold the pieces in place. Number 9. What no one will ever know actually cost him. That phrase probably felt like protection to him at the time. Chosen one. A private thought, a quiet confidence, the kind of thing people tell themselves right before they do something they know wouldn't survive daylight. No one will ever know. It's almost always the exact moment right before someone finds out. Think about what that phrase really requires to be true. It requires every single person involved to stay silent forever. It requires every piece of evidence to disappear or never exist in the first place. It requires perfect execution with zero margin for error, forever, indefinitely, for the rest of both your lives. That's not confidence. That's a bet against math, and math almost always wins eventually. He didn't just gamble his own reputation on that phrase. He gambled every relationship built on the story he told. Every person who defended him publicly is now tied to a version of events that turned out to be false, whether they knew it or not. That phrase, the one he probably repeated to himself in quiet moments to feel steady, ended up being the most expensive sentence he ever told himself. Imagine someone building an entire structure on a single, unverified assumption, confident it would hold weight forever, never once stress testing it, never once imagining a scenario where someone simply looked at it from a different angle. That's what no one will ever know always is. Not a fact. A hope, dressed up as certainty, standing on a foundation nobody ever bothered to check. Now that phrase is the thing people repeat back to him, quietly, pointedly, whenever the subject comes up. It's not sympathy anymore. It's a reminder of exactly how wrong he was, spoken by the same people who once might have believed anything he said. That's what confidence built on a lie always eventually becomes, evidence against itself. You don't have to say a word about this, chosen one. The phrase does the work now. Every time someone repeats it, they're not quoting him with admiration. They're quoting him as a warning to themselves about what overconfidence looks like right before it collapses. Number 10. Why your patience turned into the loudest thing in the room. You waited. That's really the whole story if you strip away every other detail. You didn't chase the truth down. You didn't demand people believe you before there was anything solid to point to. You waited, calmly, while a version of you that wasn't real got passed around by people who should have known better. And that waiting, chosen one, is exactly what made this moment land as hard as it did. If you'd fought loudly from the beginning, this would have looked like a conflict, two competing stories, pick a side. Instead, it looks like exactly what it is: one person building a lie, and one person simply living their life while the lie eventually collapsed under its own weight. That contrast is doing more work right now than any argument you could have made. Imagine two people standing in a storm, one screaming at the sky, demanding it stop, and one simply standing still, soaked but steady, waiting for the weather to pass, because they know weather always does. When the sky finally clears, everyone remembers who was still standing calmly and who was thrashing the whole time. That contrast becomes the story people tell afterward, more than anything that was actually said. Your patience wasn't passive. It just looked that way from the outside. Internally, you were doing something much harder than arguing. You were trusting that truth doesn't need your help to survive. It just needs time, and you were willing to give it that time, even when it cost you comfort, reputation, and peace of mind in the short term. That's the part people underestimate about patience until they watch it work. It's not weakness dressed up as strength. It's a bet, a quiet, difficult bet, that reality eventually outlasts performance. And every time that bet pays off, chosen one, it becomes just a little harder for the next liar to assume silence means surrender. Number 11. The room where it all fell apart. There's always a room, chosen one, a specific place where the story finally stops being controllable. Maybe it was a meeting. Maybe it was a conversation between two people who weren't supposed to compare notes. Maybe it was simply a screen, in front of a small group, watching something none of them expected to see play out exactly the way it did. In that room, something shifts that can't be undone. It's not loud. Nobody usually gasps the way it happens in movies. It's quieter than that, more uncomfortable. A silence that stretches a beat too long, eyes that move toward him and then quickly away. The specific kind of stillness that happens when a group of people simultaneously realize they've been repeating something false, and none of them know exactly how to say that out loud yet. Imagine a stage collapsing slowly instead of all at once, the audience watching each support beam give way one at a time, unable to look away, unable to help, just watching the whole structure come down piece by piece in real time. That's what that room felt like. Not an explosion. A slow, undeniable collapse that everyone present understood they were witnessing, whether they wanted to or not. He probably tried to say something in that room. People almost always do. A denial, an explanation, an attempt to reframe what everyone had just seen with their own eyes. But words don't carry the same weight in a room that just watched footage. Explanation only works before the evidence. After it, every sentence just sounds like exactly what it is. Someone trying to talk their way around something everyone already saw clearly. You weren't in that room, chosen one, and you didn't need to be. That's the part worth sitting with. You didn't have to defend yourself in front of anyone. The truth did that work without requiring your presence, your voice, or your energy. It simply existed, and it was strong enough to stand on its own the moment it was finally seen. Number 12. Why this isn't about revenge. It would be easy to frame this moment as satisfaction, as karma finally landing the way it should, and there's nothing wrong with feeling relief watching a lie collapse under its own weight. But chosen one, the deeper truth here isn't about him losing. It's about what it means that you didn't have to be the one to take him down. You didn't orchestrate this. You didn't spend your energy building a counterattack, gathering your own evidence, plotting the moment you'd finally expose him. You simply kept living, kept being consistent, kept refusing to become the version of yourself his story needed you to be. That refusal, quiet as it was, turned out to be exactly what preserved you, while everything he built came apart entirely on its own. That distinction matters more than it might seem right now. If you'd spent months building a campaign to destroy him back, this moment would feel like a battle you won. Instead, it feels like something closer to weather clearing, natural, inevitable, not something you had to force into existence. And that difference protects something valuable in you, the part that didn't have to become someone else in order to survive this. Imagine two paths available to you the moment this all started. One where you spent your energy matching his effort, building your own plan, learning to lie as convincingly as he did in order to fight back. And one where you simply stayed exactly who you were and let time do what lies always, eventually do, under enough weight. You took the second path, chosen one, whether you fully realized it at the time or not, and it's the reason you're still recognizably yourself on the other side of this. That's the real victory here. Not that he got caught. People get caught all the time, and the people around them stay exactly as damaged as they were before. The real victory is that you didn't have to become someone smaller, harder, or more bitter in order to survive what he tried to build against you. You stayed whole. That's rarer than winning, and it lasts longer too. Number 13. What happens to people like him after this? It's tempting to imagine a dramatic downfall, chosen one, public and total and immediate. But that's rarely how this actually plays out. What usually happens instead is quieter and, in its own way, harder to live with. He doesn't disappear overnight. He just slowly loses the thing that made his lies work in the first place, the automatic benefit of the doubt. From now on, every story he tells gets measured differently. People will remember this. Not necessarily out loud, not necessarily in a way they'll ever say directly to him, but they'll carry it quietly into every future interaction. A slight hesitation before believing him completely, a habit of double-checking things he says that they never used to question. That's what a broken foundation of trust actually looks like in real time, not collapse, erosion. Imagine trying to walk normally on a leg that everyone around you now knows is fractured, even if it still technically holds your weight. You can keep moving, keep functioning, keep pretending nothing changed, but everyone watching knows exactly where the break happened, and they adjust how much weight they're willing to put on you accordingly. That's the quiet consequence he's stepping into now, whether he understands it yet or not. Not punishment delivered by anyone in particular, just the natural result of a reputation that can't be fully repaired once people have seen behind it. He built something that worked as long as nobody looked closely. Now everyone looks closely, permanently, and there's nothing he can do to make that stop. You don't have to participate in any of that, chosen one. You don't have to remind people, keep the story alive, or make sure he never lives it down. The consequence is already built into what happened. It doesn't need your maintenance to keep functioning. You get to simply walk away from it and let the natural weight of what he did carry itself forward without you. Number 14. Where you go from here. This is the part that matters most, chosen one, more than his downfall, more than the footage, more than every person who's suddenly rewriting their memory of how supportive they were the whole time. What matters now is what you do with the version of yourself that made it through this intact. You didn't become someone hardened by this. You didn't become someone who trusts nothing and no one, scanning every room for the next hidden camera, the next quiet betrayal. That would have been an understandable response, but it isn't the one you chose. You stayed open enough to keep living a real life while the truth did its slow, patient work in the background. That's worth protecting going forward. Not by staying naive, not by pretending people can't still surprise you, but by refusing to let one person's cruelty rewrite how you engage with everyone else in your life. The people who stood by you through this, even quietly, even imperfectly, deserve your trust more than your suspicion. And the people who disappeared the moment it got complicated already told you everything you need to know about where they actually stood. Imagine a forest after a fire moves through it, blackened in places, but already, quietly, pushing new growth up through the ash within weeks. That's what this chapter is for you now. Not an ending defined by what he tried to do, but a beginning defined by what survived it. You survived it. Fully yourself, fully recognizable, without needing to become anything harder or colder to make it through. The footage did what it needed to do. It told the truth without requiring your voice to carry it. Now the only thing left is for you to keep living exactly the way you already were. Calm, consistent, unwilling to perform outrage for people who already saw the proof with their own eyes. If this landed somewhere real for you today, chosen one, let it be known. Drop a 77 in the comments if you felt every part of this land exactly where it needed to. This channel exists because people like you keep showing up for it. And if you want to help keep these messages reaching the next person who needs to hear one, a super thanks goes further than you'd think in keeping this mission alive. We're grateful for every one of you who sits with these words and lets them mean something. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care and goodbye.